It is now my privilege to introduce today's speakers, our professors of the semester. Dr. Jeff Batis, Associate Professor of Psychology, joined the faculty at SVU in 2017. Prior to this, he taught at Indiana University Kokomo for 4 years, and at other universities for an additional 9 years. The courses he teaches include general psychology, addictions, behavioral neuroscience, sensation, perception, cognition, statistics, and research methods. He's a legit brain scientist. Dr. Batis earned 2 bachelor's degrees from Utah State University and has a minor in Russian. He graduated from Wayne State University's psychology department for his master's and his doctorate degrees. He has extensive graduate training in statistics and psychopharmacology. He's been a member of the church his entire life, and he served a mission in St. Petersburg, Russia, where he met his future wife, Rebecca, and they have been married for 17 years and have 5 children. After Dr. Batis, we will hear from Arlene Fuentes, Assistant Professor of Spanish. She joined the Southern Virginia University faculty in 2004. She graduated from Utah State University, where she received a bachelor's degree in Spanish and a master's degree in second language teaching. She worked at Utah State University from 1996 to 2004 as an undergraduate teaching assistant, a graduate teaching assistant, and as an instructor of Spanish. She has also worked as an ESL instructor and used her Spanish language teaching skills in programs such as Head Start and Upward Bound. She was born and raised in Puerto Rico and served a full-time mission in Chile, and she and her Chilean husband are the parents of 6 children and happy grandparents of 2. Lastly, we will hear from Professor Kyle Nielsen. He is an assistant professor of music and the director of choral studies here at Southern Virginia University. He conducts the Bella Voce concert chorale and he oversees the choral conducting internship program. Dr. Nielsen was last at Southern Virginia University as a student from 2009 through 2012, where he completed his Bachelor of Arts degree in both music and theater. He recently completed his Doctor of Musical Arts degree in choral conducting at the University of Miami Frost School of Music. While there, he led the University Men's Chorus, taught in the experiential music curriculum, directed marketing and recording services for choral studies, and was the assistant conductor for the internationally acclaimed Frost Chorale. Dr. Nielsen also holds the Master of Music degree from East Carolina University in choral conducting, as well as vocal performance and pedagogy, where he maintained an active applied voice studio, in addition to teaching group voice instruction courses and a variety of choral ensembles. Professionally, he collaborates in a variety of capacities with some of the county's leading vocal ensembles as well. At the conclusion, we will sing Love One Another. The closing prayer will be offered by Southern Virginia Student Association Academic Center Senator Cory Stout.
I should clarify one thing. My wife and I have an 18-year-old son who's our biological son. We've been married 19 years, not 17, just so nobody wonders about that. I do want to go back 17 years, though. I want to talk about 2002 for a moment. I'd like you to think about where you were in 2002. I realize for some of you who are in the freshman class, this would be the year you potty trained, the year you first were introduced to a ball of what would eventually become your favorite sport. For me, 2002 was a kind of a turning point in my life. It was my last year as an undergraduate student at Utah State University. I had recently taken my first course in behavioral neuroscience, which is basically how the brain works and how it affects behavior. It's also the year, so that May I graduated. I graduated one Friday afternoon, and Saturday morning, I packed up my young family and my wife and the son who was already in existence, to be clear. And we moved across the country to Detroit so I could start graduate school. In graduate school, I gained what I could best describe as this deep and abiding interest in addictions. Just to be clear, that's professional interest, not personal. I do want to take a couple of moments just to talk about brains, some of the amazing things about brains, and then addictions, and I'll tie a bunch of stuff together here at the end. The human brain is absolutely amazing. It weighs about 3 pounds. It's about 2% of your total body weight. and yet it uses about 1/3 of all the blood that your heart pumps out. It's by far the most metabolically demanding organ in your body. It takes more energy to keep it going than anything else, than any other part of your body. But one of the amazing things about the human brain is that every single experience you have ever had has changed your brain. The way your brain is today is because of all the experiences you've ever had. This is academic experiences in the classroom. This is meeting the love of your life for the first time. This is sitting in a class and wondering, why did I enroll in this class? All these experiences change your brain. Every single thing that you've done has had an effect on your brain. And to a large part, physically at least, who we are is the sum total of all these experiences that we have had throughout our lives. In graduate school, I picked up this fascination with addiction. In graduate school, I studied inhalant abuse, which is sniffing glue and gas and spray paint, those kind of things. I've since expanded and looked at other addictions. I've done research on caffeine addiction. And good news for those of you that really enjoy caffeine, you can't be diagnosed with caffeine addiction yet, the way the American Psychological Association defines addiction. So, at least in that regard, science has nothing to say about that. But I want you to take a moment and think about how addiction starts. Think about somebody who's just experimenting with a new drug for the first time. Maybe it's at a party. There's usually some kind of social involvement. Somebody hands them something that they're not sure what it is, so they try it for the first time. They use their agency, which I'll talk about here more in a minute, but they use their agency to try this drug for the first time. Maybe afterwards they realize that wasn't the greatest thing. It didn't feel that great after all. Maybe they stop for a while, but then maybe they try it again a little while later on. Eventually they get into this stage in addiction, which we call controlled use, where they're using this drug repeatedly by choice, but they're also controlling how much they're doing. They're not doing it too much. They can stop when they feel the need to, and those kind of things. If this addiction cycle continues, then eventually what happens is the person starts to engage in heavy use, where they start using more than they meant to. They now start to have problems either in their family life and their social life because of what they're engaged in. As a personal example, as an instructor, one time I had a student who had to drop a class, which, keep in mind, started at 11 a.m. twice a week, and he had to drop the class because he stayed up until 5 or 6 a.m. every morning playing video games, which to me says there's something misaligned about his priorities and how he's choosing to engage in playing video games. So one of the things I love about being here at Southern Virginia University is I can teach as much as I want and as much as you all want to hear me teach about these incredibly fantastic addictive processes. We can talk about addiction. I can talk about brains. I teach at least one course that's kind of brain heavy every single semester. But more importantly than that to me, I love how much I learn in these teaching experiences with all of you. I learn as much from all of you as I think, at least I hope I teach you enough that it's roughly equal in terms of what I take from you and what you get from me. If it's not, well, you're still taking my classes. Okay? Let me just talk for a moment just about being in college and being here at Southern Virginia University. The biggest turning point in my life began when I enrolled at Utah State University. As a high school student, I was very anti-BYU. I graduated high school in 1995. At that time, we didn't quite have Southern Virginia University. I didn't even hear about SVU until well into my academic career. But I have lots of excuses for that. But here's what I want to tell you. I didn't personally become converted to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and gain my own personal testimony until I was on my own, away from my family for the first time and in college. There are places at and around Utah State University that I consider to be sacred because of the experiences that I personally had there in learning about the truthfulness of the Book of Mormon and about my relationship with my Savior and what it can do for me. And one of the things I absolutely love about Southern Virginia University is that many of you are having those same experiences. I love being able to sit down with students outside the classroom, talk about the struggles you're having, talk about what your plans are for after graduation. I have had several opportunities here where students have asked me to give them a blessing, which has never ever happened to me in my professional life prior to this. Before coming to Southern Virginia University, the school with the largest population of members of the church that I had ever been at had 4 members of the church. Okay? the main part of my character, the reason I am who I am and the way I am, is because of my belief in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Now, those of you that know me may wonder about that because I like to call out students. I will call out members of the football team if things go wrong on a particular Friday or Saturday. I will call out students who don't read in class, and I will invite them to leave the classroom. And those of you that were involved in that, I'm still not sorry. Okay? But I want you to know that I have a deep and abiding care about the well-being of all the students here and of the faculty I get to work with. I think we have some of the best faculty I have ever had the privilege of being associated with on this campus. All right. Because of this care that I have for all of you, for my peers, please know that everything I do is motivated in trying to build other people up. It's trying to make you better students. So kicking you out of class because you don't read, for what it's worth, I have not had that problem in that class anymore this semester. Most of the students are now reading, and I don't know if it's fear or love, but it's still working. Okay? And all the other faculty on this campus share this love and interest in you. One of the things Provost John has asked me to do is serve as a division chair, and I have an opportunity to hear from all the other divisions about what's going on across campus, which I didn't have prior to that. And I want you to know that all the faculty here have a deep interest in your well-being, in your success both here and your success after you leave here. One of the biggest hindrances to our success, one of the things that holds each of us back, is our tendency to get down on ourselves. I've had experiences where I personally have felt that I was forgiven for the sins that I had committed, yet I couldn't bring myself to forgive myself for quite some time after I knew that I had received forgiveness from a loving Father in heaven. So my hope for all of you is that as we finish this semester, as we go into summer break, that we'll all be as kind to ourselves as we are to each other. Thank you.
Buenos días. Oh, yeah, good. Okay, so I want to ask Jeff a question. Are you a true Aggie? Glad to hear that you're also a Utah State graduate. Speaking about updating our bio on our website, we are now the proud grandparents of 7 grandchildren and 1 on the way. So we've grown a lot as a family while we've been here at SVU. And students, my students, now we're even. I make you speak in Spanish in front of your class, in your presentations. No, I got to give a presentation in front of the whole school in my foreign language. So here we go. Back in 1999, when I was a new graduate student at Utah State University, I came across this little leaflet. I believe it arrived inside of a newspaper, like, one of those flyers that come in advertisements. And I was thrilled to hear that there was a small college in the East that served the Latter-day Saint community. I immediately researched the Spanish department and got to know everything about it and who was teaching at that time, how small it was and all that, and wished that someday I could come and teach here. 4 years later, our daughter Kristen, who had just graduated from high school, received a phone call from an SVU student asking her what her plans for college were. Kristen explained that her mother was interviewing for college teaching positions, and she was waiting to find out where we would end up moving to decide. When Kristen explained that I taught Spanish, This brilliant SVU student shared that they were at that time looking for a Spanish teacher. Long story short, our family was here 3 weeks later. That's mom, dad, and 5 children 5 children because one was in Chile at the time, but the youngest was barely like 2 or 3. This fall, it will be 15 years since that happened. I have loved teaching at SVU. I love the kind of student that comes here, and I love working with others that have chosen to be here because of what this school stands for and is trying to do for its students. 5 of our 6 children have attended Southern Virginia University. 2 graduated on our proud SVU nights. Many years ago, I decided that what I wanted to do as a career was to teach. It took a while to figure out exactly what I would teach. I liked many different subjects. But one thing led to another, many changes in majors and classes and stuff, until I knew that helping students learn my native language was what I wanted to do for the rest of my working life, and where I would be able to put my background, experience, and talents to the best use. There are 3 things that I love about my life. I love being Hispanic. I am very proud to be Hispanic. I love being a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I love to teach. Add those 3 elements, and you can see that I have the perfect job for me. Besides the Hispanic cultures, and notice that I say cultures because just because 2 countries speak the same language doesn't mean that they have the same culture, So Spanish-speaking countries differ quite a bit in their culture. But besides the Hispanic cultures and language, I have great appreciation for all languages and cultures. I find it fascinating to travel and see how people in other countries do things in an amazing and wonderfully different way, because different is not bad. Yet, inside, we're all alike. It pains me that very few of my students have the opportunity to travel abroad to gain this appreciation. Foreign language programs are in peril in the U.S. education systems because English is so widely spoken around the world. Few in the U.S. feel it is important to learn other languages. Okay, so now I'm going to try to pronounce this name in German, which I've been trying to learn but haven't been too successful. So Ludwig Wittgenstein, an Austrian philosopher who worked primarily in logic, the philosophy of the mind, and the philosophy of language, said this, quote, "The limits of my language mean the limits of my world," end of quote. Then Frank Smith, a contemporary psycholinguist recognized for his contributions in linguistics and cognitive psychology, stated, quote, "One language sets you in a corridor for life. 2 languages open every door along the way," end of quote. And Flora Lewis, who was an American journalist who wrote about international politics for the New York Times, wrote the following, quote, "Learning another language is not only learning different words for the same things, but learning another way to think about things," end of quote. I am grateful for this recognition today, although I do not need it in order to feel respected and appreciated by my students and my colleagues. Students, those thank yous, be it on an exam, on a little piece of paper, on a note card, in an email, or simply said at the end of class, really mean the world to me. Thank you.
So, I too have a few biographical corrections from when I wrote that biography 2 years ago. I have the same number of children as I had when I got here, which is good news for now. I do, however, have a wonderful colleague named Dr. Mackenzie Romriel, who many of you know because you sing in her Bella Voce. So, we love her and are grateful for her. We've also added 2 choirs since I got here, and I just need to email the school, I guess, to update my bio. I also have a dear friend, Alan Porter, who understood. He walked in, and the first thing he said to me was, "You're probably going to want the wireless mic because you're going to wander around, right?" Yeah, probably true. And my students can attest to that as well. So I think the majority of you know me as the guy who conducts Love One Another at Forum. That's actually how my wife introduces her. People meet her and are like, "Nielsen, are you?" "Yeah, the Love One Another guy." And that's true. And I think it's a fair representation of what I do at SVU. My job is to conduct a large group of humans in singing, preferably in front of a larger group that's watching them. But this works too. Part of that we just did over spring break. 82 of your colleagues and I spent spring break in New York City singing at Carnegie Hall, as you see here. And if you listen carefully, you'll hear it as well. So like Dean Dr. Gibbons mentioned, this is my 4th semester teaching here, but my 13th year being associated with the school. So singing in Carnegie Hall is already kind of a landmark moment for a choir or a conductor, but the chance to do Shenandoah in Carnegie Hall just seemed a little too good to not program that. I had a lot of students come up to me after and talk about how it was a life-changing moment and this is a cool thing. It's on the website, right? Like, you know you made it when they put it on the website. But for me, the thing that I really treasure, and Dr. Hansen as my roommate on this tour can attest, you spend an entire choir tour as the conductor kind of stressed the whole time. The part that I enjoy is the preparation. And it's not just the weeks and months leading up to the concert. It's the days and weeks and months and years of watching many of you who are in the room who sing in these choirs progress and grow. That's the thing that I think is most important in my role as a teacher, is my ability to do that. The thing about singing is it requires a lot of you. By nature, you can't see your instrument, right? It's like in your throat. So it requires a lot of vulnerability, whether you're alone or in a choir or even singing Love One Another in Forum, the people around you can hear you. It's like scary. It's even scary to all of us that have done it for a long time. It's my job as your conductor in Forum and as a conductor in my choirs to create an environment that's equally challenging and fun and safe and empowering. And we talk about this regularly across the quad in Kimball 203 where we live and where we do choir. And I try my best to reciprocate that amount of vulnerability to create a classroom environment we can be proud of. And that's one that we can grow in. So in the spirit of that, I'm going to be really vulnerable with you for the next 8 to 10 minutes. It's probably going to be embarrassing. It will hopefully be a little funny, but I think we'll illuminate the point that I want to make about why singing and teaching choir here is the best. So this picture is from just a couple months ago. Many of you know this woman, Larae Carter, who's on the screen. She was my predecessor in this job. She lives in St. George now. And this, too, is kind of a mountaintop moment. We were there recruiting future students. I just sung a recital at the Assembly Hall on Temple Square. Like, this is the thing, right? I'm living the dream. The thing that I love the most, and I'll probably get a little emotional thinking about this, is Larae Carter knew that this is what would happen to me in 2019, but this is who she met when I started at SVU. I know. I do want to point out one thing, is you can decide what year this was by the fact that this is a screenshot from MySpace. And that I was really regretful about cutting my hair. So she met this kid as a freshman, and this kid didn't know he wanted to be a conductor. I can be clear about that. I came from California. I didn't have any friends here. I remember sitting in my room and weeping when I got here and my mom dropped me off and drove away. This is probably feeling familiar to many of you. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I liked what I did and was good at it. And I knew I was going to make friends because I'm annoyingly outgoing. And I did a lot of things that was going to be fine. What I didn't anticipate was the things, when I left on my mission, I didn't write my friends that I met here. Some of them went on mission, some of them, I wrote one consistently, weekly, who'd married me. But beside that one, the people I wrote were Larae Carter and Robert Stoddard, who were my mentors, who saw this kid and took me under their wing and helped me to find my potential and helped me create my own path as an artist and, to me, most importantly, as a human. So I'm going to show you a variety of pictures here. You guys, that's Professor Stoddard 13 years ago. Look at him. These are some landmark moments of my time at SVU. I did plays and I sang in concerts, and it was the best. I was developing my skills. I was preparing. It was synthesized in something that people clapped and gave me flowers, and we did the thing. What these pictures don't show are like the hours that Larae Carter letting my wife and I stay at her house for a week because our apartment flooded as newlyweds, and teaching me how to be a husband and why it was important to be a father. The number of blessings that I got in Robert Stoddard's office for a variety of things, where he taught me not only help me in my time of need, but also taught me how to use the priesthood. Taught me the importance of being willing and able to give a blessing. And they cared a lot about me as an actor and as a singer. This is, unconventional facial hairstyle for Pride and Prejudice. Thanks for that, Professor Stoddard. They wanted me to be the best musician and actor I could be, and it's what helped me find conducting. But I know that I'm a better human because of the care that they had for me. That's why I was able to do what I was able to do. I look back on what I've done and think there's no way I should have accomplished what I did as quickly as I did in grad school and everything. And this is why what I lacked in content, I made up for in a self-reliance of obtaining my education and confidence in what I could achieve and who I was. So now in my own office, I keep a bookshelf with my mentors, and there's one not pictured, but for the most part, it's my teacher from my master's, my teacher from my doctorate, so I can talk to my students about the people who are important to me and the people who've made me who I am. Not on accident, there's also a picture hanging above this of the first choir that I conducted while I was here. And this is Bella Voce, circa 2010, I think, 2011. This is really important to me, this juxtaposition that the students who trusted me to teach them are just as important as the people who enabled me to grow academically. We need both. So I know so many of you from being in choir. I want to take a minute to talk about some of the students who are here right now who've made an impact on my life, who've trusted me to be their Robert Stoddard or to be their Larae Carter. I think we can use this as an example that it'll hit many of you kind of where you're at, and hopefully there'll be some resonance there that we can tie a bow on it and talk about why it's this thing, this student-faculty relationship that makes SVU so special to teach at and study. So this first person is Jessica Simpson. She's a sophomore. Jessica Simpson, my favorite story about Jessica Simpson is that she didn't start singing until later in high school because her name is Jessica Simpson. Right? So she starts singing, and she transfers here from, after her mission, doesn't matter where she transferred from, but she did. And she was looking for a Latter-day Saint-centric mentor-based education, and walked in my office and said, I just want to sing in choir. Can I do that as a living? No one says I can. And I said, yes, you can. And we talked about it, and she came. And the thing that I love about Jessica, one of them, is not only her commitment to growing as an artist, and you can see that commitment tonight at the opera workshop, but also she's one of the most outward-facing humans I've ever met. She genuinely cares about everybody. And you see that in her artistry. And I feel so fortunate to be able to sit there and watch her grow. She walked in and said, I need to double in liberal arts because I need to expand my education and have a better grounding of who I am. And I just think that's great. I was not so motivated to try things out of my comfort zone. And that's been her since day one. This person is Brandon Bassett. Many of you know him. This is right after his debut as a student conductor with Concert Chorale last semester. When I interviewed here, Brandon told me he wanted to be a collegiate choir director, and I've had the joy of watching Brandon forge his path there. He's not only a growing musician, but he's shining through theater performances and developing skills that I think even he doesn't know he needs yet. He's one of the most loyal friends I've ever met. I love just sitting and watching him interact with people. And we have this lobby in the basement of Landrum, and he talks to everyone and genuinely cares about them. That's going to get him farther, and no matter what he ends up doing, than anything he learns in a classroom here, because it's going to augment the person he is. And I try to keep that in mind every day, if I can be a little more like Brandon. This is true about Mackenzie Kitchen as well. She's a graduating senior. Her husband goes to law school at UVA, so they moved out here before she was done with her degree. She searched everywhere for where to go to undergrad, decided to come here to finish her bachelor's, and drives from Charlottesville round trip every day to go to college. Spends 3 hours in the car. You know how many podcasts that is? So many podcasts. She works so hard, and that level of commitment is something that I struggled with Miami traffic, but my goodness, look at her. She's one of the most driven people I've taught, overcoming that obstacle and a variety of others to become a confident, engaging artist and an empathetic soul that matches that commitment. This is John Clawson, who's a kind of an everything major. He's standing next to Andrew Unsworth, who's a tabernacle organist, as you may have met him before. When I met him, he wanted to study law, and he is studying law as a history and politics. So, but the dream is to be a conductor. And I said, if there's ever a place to follow your dream, it's here where you can double and major and stuff. And he took that really literally. He's a history major and a music major in pre-law, and he also works part-time at a law firm and is the organist and the conductor at a Methodist church in Greenville, and he is responsible for why this organ sounds so good. He registrated it all, so it sounds great in the arena. He just has this desire for excellence in everything he does and cares so much about serving people. And that's going to help him be a great lawyer. It's going to help him be a great musician, no matter what. And this last person is Kaya Bryner. Kaya graduated last semester and is doing her student teaching. She's going to be our first vocal music education graduate in the history of SVU, which is a really exciting thing. Kaya, because of that, I call her the ultimate tweener, because she was here while all the faculty was kind of getting hired. That's here in the music department now. She's developed this resolve to get what she needs, and that has turned into this really effective presence in front of choirs and in classrooms. And this is all done in spite of the fact that she has extremely limited vision. When she stands in front of a class, she often can't see the back of the classroom. So you'd think in an elementary school or a middle school where she is right now, that's a recipe for disaster, right? Like the French horn section in the back knows you can't see them. Good night, right? But they listen to her. And they do what she tells them to do because she cares about them and just commands their attention. And she's gained that education for herself. She's worked for it, despite everything that told her that she shouldn't be able to. So where does that put all of you? Each and every one of you are on a path not altogether different than them. You have strengths that you don't give yourselves enough credit for. You have weaknesses that you focus on too much. And you have the potential to achieve anything you want to achieve. And I know that this education will give you what you need to do that because I'm a product of it. I took Spanish with Senor Fuentes, just like many of you. Thanks to SVU, I am where I am. But my challenge to you is to pick people up along the way who can augment where you want to be. We talk about all this vulnerability and stuff in choir, and it's important for music making. But I think that is enhanced by the experiences we have when we address life together outside of the choir rehearsal. When we're talking about the things they're going through and the academic advising and all those things, that's where the relationship matters. Music is my medium for helping people achieve something greater, because that's what my medium was here. Me learning a cowardly lion impression for Wizard of Oz makes me have a funny, party trick, but I remember the work I put in for that and how I was enabled to do it. That's the thing that matters. You have colleagues around you that are going to help you on that journey. Sitting in the back of the room taking notes and not talking to anyone about your learning isn't going to get you there. You need to engage with each other in person, not just digitally. Digitally is important, but you have to engage with each other. Come to office hours. Come visit your professors. Make an appointment to learn the material if you're struggling, or make an appointment to get to know your professor. Learn about them and their journey of how they got here, why they choose to be here. You might find something that's useful to you. That's the thing. Sitting in these offices and learning and being available to the students now, from my perspective, is what I love maybe even more than teaching choir a lot of the time. It's these relationships that augment the education and help you be what you want to be. So I would challenge you to take a choir or take an art class or audition for a musical or a play. I have amazing colleagues all over the faculty, and particularly in the fine and performing arts. I know that you're going to have a landmark experience like all these students in Carnegie Hall. That's going to happen for you. But I most look forward to you trying something different, trying something new, getting to know new people, and seeing if you are closer to becoming the person you want to be, to not settling for where you're at, but using your education actively to become the type of human that you want to be later on. Thank you.